All right, what is up, my friends? Welcome. It is time for our Innistrad Midnight Hunt complete set review. That's right, complete set review. We're doing every single card for constructed and limited. Not missing a single one. Don't want to close my eyes. I hate Aerosmith, I'm sorry. So every single card we're going through. We're starting off with white, of course. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll all be in sections by color. If you're watching on stream and you miss anything, it'll all be up on YouTube, all right? And then, of course, coolstuffinc.com. Articles up today about my love-hates for this set. We got 10 new brews next Thursday. 10 new brews we always do on YouTube, Cool Stuff, and Twitch. A lot of cool stuff happening. Call Us Apparel is awesome. BCW Supplies is awesome. Let's rock and roll with white, all right? We also, one important thing also, we also have a best in show for each color. We also have a new thing we were doing also, the It's a Trap for each color as well. So we have our trap card and our best in show. And I kind of want to do a third one too, but Nicole gave me an idea and I forgot about it. So we're going to, give me ideas. Give me ideas. YouTube folks, let me know your ideas are for a third potential, cool award we can do. All right? Let's fire off and start with a pretty cool one here. Adeline, Resplendent Cathar, white 1 for a legendary human knight. It's a star 4. Power equal to the number of creatures you control, has vigilance. Whenever you attack for each opponent, so in most games I'm going to be playing 1, make a 1 white human token that's tapped and attacking a player or planeswalker they control. So Brimaz, of course, Brimaz is one of the the cube cards you see a lot, often last, but we sort of have a new Brimaz here. So very, very, very solid card. 3 mana for, at worst a 1/4 vigilance, right? That's the absolute. That's the absolute floor is a 1/4. Which isn't the worst, And 4 toughness is a lot. Will survive. And then it sort of has like the Rabble Master ability where you make token and attacks. I believe it kills on pace the Rabble Master, or at least very, very close. You play it, attack for 3, attack for 5, attack for 7. Because every token will up its power as well as giving its own power. This card's great. I like it a lot. It's a kind of card, kind of like Brimaz, where it might not find a home. It also doesn't have anything on blocks either, where Brimaz also made tokens on blocks, which is really cool. So, kind of card where if there's a home for it, kind of a tokeny, aggressive-y deck, maybe a human deck. Not a lot of human synergies in this set, so nothing huge there. But it's a sweet card. I do like it a lot. Absolute bomb and limited, of course, just super, super bomb. But yeah, the 3-drop slot is a little contested. So, is it good enough for constructed? Yes. But it's one of those cards that must find a home or will not be played and constructed. It's funny. It's almost like a better cube card than constructed card because it kind of fills that, Brimaz role. It's a cool card. It's a cool card. But again, bomb and limited, constructed role player, but a cool one. I like it. Doesn't have to attack the tokens. Or whenever you attack, sure. I mean, usually it's going to be attacking with 4 toughness, but correct. So I like it. Moving on is Ambitious Farmhand. And this is pretty cool. Now, Gavin Verhey has been saying a lot on Twitter, talking about how they've been really trying to work on white. All right, because white, it sucks. And white's been the color, but this hasn't got any card advantage. They've worked really hard in the last 10 years. They gave red the kind of impulse ability, exile a card, you can play it. Green just does everything, so that's fine. Black draws cards with life, blue draws cards, and white just kind of got toy left out of his whole card party. So they've been working on trying to add card advantage to white. We're starting to see it more and more. And this card's super sweet. This is a 1/1 for 2, sorry. Comes into play. You search your library for a basic plains and put it in your hand. So this is basically an Elvish Visionary, Sylvan, whatever it was called, kind of card, where it's, 2-for-1 kind of foddery creature. Not really good enough for constructed usually, but occasionally a fringe player constructed if, being a human matters. But it also has the Coven ability. So we're going to go over all the new abilities, of course. Coven is an ability where it doesn't do anything by itself. It's just kind of like a name for an ability that means you can use this ability if you have 3 creatures that have different power. So now I have to have a 2/2, a 3/3, and a 4/4, or an 0/1, 1/2, and a 4/4, whatever it is. Any combination of creatures that have different power. Not an easy thing to do in constructed because just having 3 creatures is already kind of difficult. Perfect example, the party mechanic, very similar to the party mechanic, where it's kind of hard to do in constructed. In limited, major mechanic for sure. Constructed, a little more difficult. But the backside we see here is pretty good. So it flips over into a 3/3 lifelinker called Ceasing Cathar. Very reasonable body for sure. So the front side is already almost playable by its... my bad. What did I do? The front side is already almost playable by itself, just as a 1/1 that finds a land, it can block, it's a human. And then the backside is a nice little upside too. So this card is another possible fringe card for constructed. Again, it's fodder. if you're sacrificing creatures, or if humans matter, or you just need a 2-drop to fill your curve, it does that. And then it might flip occasionally. Great limited card, though, because in limited, you're much more likely to hit Coven, and a 3/3 lifelinker limited is fantastic. Card advantage limited is fantastic. So I like this card a lot in limited, and again, possibly a fringe constructed card. Moving on to Beloved Beggar, and another new mechanic here. We got 2 mana for an 0/4. Has the Disturb ability. Disturb is a graveyard ability. It's similar to Flashback. However, you don't get the same card. You get a different card. So the backside here is Generous Soul, which is a Serra Angel. And of course, if it would die or go anywhere, it gets exiled like Flashback. So you can only do the Flashback once. This card's kind of a fun one for a few reasons. So constructed, obviously not it's just an 0/4 for 2. But in limited, an 0/4 for 2 is fine, and card advantage is great, and a 4/4 flyer for 6 is also fine. The fun thing here though is your 4/4 for 2 won't often die. So it's kind of a fun puzzle to get this card in the graveyard. Also really important for this card is how it works with Coven. So for Coven, you need different powers and toughness, and 0 is a very uncommon power in Coven, so you're not going to see this very often. So having a 0 helps Coven out. You can just block with it, get your thing. It blocks early. This is a cool limited card. If it's a slower format, it's good. It's also a cool card to just discard. There's a lot of things in the set that will just like put a card right in the graveyard, and you can just put it in the graveyard, and now you basically have a free 6 mana Serra Angel for later, which is also cool as well. So do not underestimate the Disturb mechanic. It is much better than you think it is. It's very, very good and limited. So we have a very solid limited card here, and then not sure, but whatever. That's the backside. Bereaved Survivor is our next card. 3 mana for a 2/1. Whenever another creature you control dies, transform this. Okay. And it flips over to Dauntless Avenger. Whenever it attacks, return a creature card, mana value 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. These kind of cards always look so good, and they're usually not very good. Not very good. This is not going to see play constructed. In limited, this card's fine. It's 2/1, has some upside. It's reasonable. Obviously, it's if you flip it, it's good. Goes to a 3/2, but not a very exciting card. A lot needs to happen for this card to be reasonable. You got to flip it. It has to live. Then you have to have a creature in your graveyard mana value 2 or less. So the kind of card that in the right limited deck will be pretty good. But on average, just kind of like a Moby limited card, and nothing too exciting here. Up next is Blessed Defiance. 1 white for an instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains a lifelink until end of turn. When that creature dies... What do you mean when? So the creature you cast this on is like, yo, bro, what do you mean when? Why not if? Why's it gotta be when? All right? Why's it gotta be when? So when that creature dies this turn, make a 1/1 flying spirit token with flying. Sort of like your weird trick. You see this card a lot in limited, where it's like the weird trick where your creature's like supposed to die, and you're supposed to get a token off of it. But usually you get like a 3/2 of those cards aren't that good anyway. So only getting a 1/1's kind of like not super exciting. The lifelink is okay. I mean, not a very good trick. I'm not really big on this card, honestly. It's not really about it. It's not really a trick. It's more of like a 1 white, maybe your creature trades up, gain 4 life, make a token. So like, it's not super exciting. I think this card's going to be pretty fringe to unplayable and limited, and obviously not playable and constructed. Borrowed Time is next. 3 mana for an enchantment. Enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanents and opponent control, so it leaves the battlefield. So what was wrong with Banishing Light? I guess there's no light on this plane. It's just all darkness all the time. So there's a new Banishing Light. I don't think Banishing Light's currently legal. It's in Theros, and I think Theros is rotating, I believe. So just a new Banishing Light. We all know what Banishing Light does. It's a fringe playable card constructed. It's a great kill spell unlimited. Not much to say here. Brutal Cathar is next. Brutal Cathar. And this card, I call this card a hate in my article. It's not our trap card today, but I think this card's pretty overrated. Again, I wrote about it in my article on coolstuffinc.com. Check that out. I do my love hates as always. And we have here a variant on the old Banisher Priest, Fiend Hunter, etc. card. 3 mana for a 2/2. When it comes into play, exile a creature, or when it transforms, and then the creature gets exiled until this thing dies. Right, so that's fine. The Banisher Priest is like a pretty fringe card, but then it flips when day turns night into a Moonrage Brute, which is a first striking 3/3 with ward, pay 3 life. The problem here is though you almost like don't want to get frisky with your creature, because if it dies in combat or it dies at some other point, and then you get their card back, and the Banishing Light kind of creatures to me just they just ask you to get blown out. I just don't like them very much. And then, of course, you can do it multiple times. If your opponent can't kill this card, yeah, you could, in theory, like, exile a thing, flip it, exile a thing, flip it, eat their whole board. Sure. But the real problem here is Skyclave Apparition. The best ever Fiend Hunter was printed recently, and Skyclave does not have that big blow-up potential because you get to only give them a token. Skyclave's like the best white card printed in years, and Brutal Cathar will never be in Standard without Skyclave also in Standard. That's a huge, huge count against this card. Is this card playable? Yeah. Is it great? I don't really think so. It's just fine. In Limited, it's great. This is a great Limited card, obviously, but in Constructed, just not super exciting. It's not super exciting. Moving on to Candle Grove Witch. 2 mana for a 2/2. It is the Coven ability. Beginning combat your turn, 3 more creatures spin power, it gets flying. So Coven, it gains flying. This seems like a really solid 2-drop. Just your usual 2-drop that can gain evasion later. So it's 2-drop early, and then later in the game it can have evasion to try and close the game out. Very solid limited aggro 2-drop. Likes the card a lot. Likes the card a lot. Up next is Candle Trap. Is this our trap card? Is this our... No, it's not our trap card. Candle Trap. 1 white for an enchantment. Enchanted creature has Defender, and it prevents all combat damage that would be dealt by enchanted creatures. So basically it turns their creature into a wall. They can't... Has no power, basically. So not great. It's fine. You can also Coven. You can exile the creature, which is also pretty cool. So this is kind of like your solid limited removal spell. This card could play Constructed because, frankly, it's just a 1-mana removal spell. If you're playing a control deck, you know, you can just play this other creature. They can't attack you with it. Doesn't stop abilities and stuff like that, which is kind of tough. But you know, it's good limited removal spell. Possibly playable Constructed. Kind of a cool card. Candles are cool. I like candles. Sweet. So it's a cool one. Moving on to Cathar Commando. Man, Blade of the First Pride. Or Sixth Pride, whatever it was. I don't even know what the hell it was called. We've come a long way. We have a 3/1 human for 2, which was like a benchmark in power and toughness, 10 years ago. And it also has Flash. And it also pays 1 to dissack it and disenchant. This is a pretty solid card. Like, Quasale Pride Mage-esque in that it's a cheap creature with reasonable stats. It's also a disenchant. You can main deck it. It's a human. Having Flash is extremely relevant in this format because you have all your werewolves. So be very, very aware of that. Flash creatures allow you to have your wolf in play, say go, turn day to night, and then cast a spell on their turn anyway. Because the thing about the wolves is, if you pass the turn and don't do anything, and then waste your mana, that sucks. So Flash creatures allow you to mitigate that. Very, very solid card. I can see this card showing up a lot in various formats, honestly. Like, modern humans, they need to disenchant. This card's super reasonable, So super reasonable card, super solid stats, good limited card because it has Flash and it just has some utility. There are very few artifacts in this set, but there are some enchantments. So in limited, it's not going to matter as much. But again, just a 3/1 Flash for 2 is just like fine. It's not that bad. So very, very solid card. You can see this card definitely in various formats at various times. Up next is Cathar's Call. 3 mana for an enchantment, Aura. Enchanted creature has Vigilance, and at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 human creature token. Not a fan of this one. Not a card for Constructed, obviously. And then in Limited, this is your usual like aura that gets blown out. So you play this in your creature, you get a token, they untap and kill it, and you got 2 for 1. And that's just not good. So the kind of card where like, yeah, you'll play it and they won't kill it sometimes, and you'll just win the game. But it's not even that powerful. Like usually these auras have a big, huge monstrous upside to try and offset their downside. But I mean, it's just a freaking 1/1 ground creature every turn. It was a flyer every turn, sure. If it was something else, maybe every end step, but just a very, very low impact card. I wouldn't put this card in almost any deck unless I was desperate for ways to win limited. Up next is Celestius Sanctifier. 3 mana for a 3/2. If it is neither day nor night, it becomes day. It comes into play. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 of them in your graveyard. So it's important to note that this will not trigger when you cast it. Going from nothing to day is not the same as going from day to night or night to day. So you're going to play this. It'll start the day-night cycle, which will obviously affect the game in a serious way. And then whenever it becomes day or night, it'll have this very, very small ability. This is filler. This is filler. Unless you're desperate for a way to make it day or night. A 3/2 for 3 is just not a very good stats. Milling a card occasionally is obviously cool with your flashback cards, but it's just not super exciting. Just not super exciting. So not too big on this one. Moving on is Chaplin of Alms. 1 mana for a 1/1 first strike. It's got Ward 1, which is kind of a weird ability because, like, no one's going to be targeting your crappy 1/1, which is fine. And then it has Disturb. Our backside is Chapel Shieldgeist, a flying first strike 2/1 with Ward. Each creature you control is Ward 1. Pretty good. And then, of course, if it dies, it would go away. This card seems medium to me. This feels like one of the Disturb cards that is not great to cast, but is very good to discard. So you can find some way to get this card in your graveyard without casting it. Then you have sort of like this free, it's almost like a cantrip Chapel Shieldgeist because you're getting the card back for free and then casting it. So a 2/1 flying first strike for 4 with upside is not amazing, but is reasonable if it's free. So the kind of card you probably don't want to cast on the front side. If you can get some value off it by casting it and like sacrificing it to something, it's pretty cool. But kind of like your Fringe limited card, I feel like. Kind of like your Fringe limited card. Not super exciting. Not super exciting. Up next is Clarion Cathars. 4 mana for a 3/3. Comes into play, make it 1/1. We've seen this card a ton in limited. We've seen it in green. We've seen it in white. This is your like limited kind of like 4 mana curve filler. You know, you don't play it every time. If you play it, you're not super upset about it. It's just a fine card. It goes white. It goes wide. It's important to note that this is 2 bodies for Coven. So if you have a 2/2 in play, you play this, now you have the full Coven ability. So if you're playing Coven stuff, this will matter. But just kind of like your limited filler card. Nothing super exciting. Totally reasonable, but a card you will not play sometimes. Up next is Curse of Silence. 1 mana for a enchantment curse. You enchant a player. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a card name. Spells with the chosen name enchanted player casts cost 2 more to cast. Whenever an enchanted player casts a spell with the chosen name, you may sacrifice Curse of Silence. If you do, draw a card. So, kind of a weird card. These curses often seem like they fit more so in like older formats. So, you know, if we're playing against Storm and you name Manamorphose or something like that, you know, you've gained a little bit of value here. But realistically, I don't think this card does enough to really make it worth a mana or a card. You're not stopping your opponent from playing a card. You're just mildly taxing it. And then if they play it and you get to draw a card, if you want to stop them from playing a really important card and they get to play it anyway, I don't think just drawing a card is going to make up for that. You know, like, I got Storm killed. Good thing I have his card in my hand. You know, like, okay. So this card's pretty iffy. I'm not really too big on this one. It is cheap, but you're just not really getting your value for one card here. So I'm not really big on this one. And then limited, don't play this card. Unless your opponent has like, you know, 5 copies of a common, you can board it in. But yeah, kind of just a weird card. Just a weird card. Up next is Dual Craft Trainer, which is a 3 mana 3/3 first strike, which is very, very solid limited. And then as Coven, you can give a thing double strike. This card's great. Super, super solid limited card. 3/3 first striker for 4 is already a very solid draft card. And then this Coven ability is also a great scaling ability. Remember, as we always say in limited, cards at scale are very important. The cards that can get better as the game goes on, break stalemates and so on and so forth. So this card does that very, very well. Super, super solid draft card. Super, super solid draft card. Up next is Enduring Angel. White 2. Flying double strike 3/3. So decent stats. You have Hexproof. If your life total will be reduced to 0 or less, you transform it and your life total becomes 3. And if it didn't transform, you lose the game. That's just to cover for clones. Because otherwise, if you clone this, you would never die. So that text on there is just to say, hey, you can't clone this, basically. So front side, reasonable. Back side is Angelic Enforcer. Flying, Hexproof. Or you have Hexproof. Power and toughness are equal to your life total. Whenever it attacks, double your life total. So kind of a cute, fun card. Not really a card we'll see constructed. You know, it's just kind of card that's like a little too small to matter. It dies pretty easily. Kind of a fun, you know, maybe like commander card or like more casual card. That part's pretty cool. Obviously a total bomb and limited. It's a 6 power flyer. Has, you know, multiple upsides as well. So definitely, you know, a bomb and limited. Kind of like your Fringe. We see cards like this a lot. There was like the 2/6 Angel and like Zendikar Rising or whatever. Just sort of like the kind of cute, lot of words, doesn't really do a lot kind of cards. So nothing crazy here, just a limited bomb. Up next is Fateful Absence. Fateful Absence. No. No awards for this card on either side. This card is good. This card is not great. Again, in my article on coolstuffinc.com, my love-hate article, I'll talk about this card kind of more in depth. This is not your like Doomblade, every deck plays 4 of this kind of card. All right, this card has a very, very real drawback. You can only really play this card if you are either extremely desperate to kill a planeswalker or creature, or if you are playing a deck that's so fast, they're not going to have time to activate this clue and use the card from the clue. All right, so this is a card, a removal spell more for aggressive decks. I actually love the design here, because if you make your 2-mana removal spell too good, all the control decks play it and beat up on the creature decks. But if you make it not good enough, there's not enough good removal. So this card does a really good job kind of filling that role of like, it's a kill spell, it's pretty efficient, but it's not very good in control decks. It's very, very solid in more aggressive decks that want to end the game, which is a very, very good thing to promote. I think this is a phenomenal design. I love it. It's not as good as you think it is. Very, very similar to Declaration in Stone. Same idea. For those of you who cast Deck in Stone, you cast it. Once they draw a card of that clue, you feel disgusting. You feel awful. You're like, oh my god, I just gave him a 2-for-1. You know, so reasonable card, good in aggro decks. We'll see play in multiple formats. It actually gets better as the formats get older because decks are more efficient. Don't have time to crack a clue. Gonna be probably the worst than standard, but solid card. Currently very overrated. It's good though. It is good. It will see play. It will see play. Up next is Flare of Faith. It's a 2-mana instant. Creatures +2/+2 end of turn. If it's a human, +2/+3 against indestructible. This is like your standard limited combat trick. You know, a lot of humans, so it's going to be pretty good a lot of the time. But just, you know, you don't want to play too many of these. If I have one of these in my deck, I'm not unhappy about it. It's fine. It's a trick. You know, it'll depend on how aggressive the format is, you know, and how much removal there is and so on and so forth. You need a way to break through. You need a trick. It's reasonable and limited. You know, it's fine. It's fine. Up next is Gavany Dawnguard. White 1 for a 3/3 ward 1. Decent stats. Again, if it's either night nor day, it becomes day or night. Or sorry, it becomes day. Whenever day becomes night, or night becomes day, look top 4 cards of your library, may reveal a creature, mana value 3 or less, and put it into your hand, rest of the bottom. So, looks like, oh my god, what's the name of that card? Militia Bugler. Militia Bugler. Looks like the Bugler, but of course doesn't trigger immediately. Again, the first on first reading, you may think it triggers immediately. It does not. So it comes into play, doesn't actually do anything but make it into day. And then later on, if day flips, you start drawing cards. So phenomenal draft card, obviously. So 3/3 ward for 3 is already very reasonable. Constructed, we'll see how easy it is to flip night and day. My instinct tells me it's probably not good enough for constructed, but it could be. It could be. That's, you know, borderline. But limited, great limited card. Super high value. Just very, very solid card. Scale's great. Excellent limited card. Up next is Gavany Silversmith. And limited players, this is the card for you. All right. Cyberback Lagak was a card in some old draft format. It was a 3/1. The exact same ability. Was an absolute bomb. If you curve out with this card, you go 2-drop, 3-drop, this card, you are going to be so far ahead. It is unbelievable. And then we have extra value in this format of Coven. So now you can try and like move things around, try and find the right mix of counters. It's probably instant Coven, honestly. And this is going to be one of the top white commons. Very, 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 very good draft card. It looks so simple. Looks so simple, but it's very, very good. And then contextually very good as well, with Coven being in the format. If you got 2 drops and 3 drops, let it ride. Yeah, this card had lifelink in a previous set, for sure. But, yeah, super, super, super good. Super, super, super good draft card. Gavany Trapper. 1 mana for an 0/2. It's a tapper. Not a great tapper. Has no power. And then taps for 2. Those are both pretty big counts against it. But it does cost 1. Obviously, this is a fine card. Limited tappers are pretty good limited. A lot of diminishing returns here. If your deck has a low curve and don't have mana sinks from mid to late game, this card will be a lot better. If your deck is a little higher curve, has 5 drops and 6 drops, not going to be as good. And then it's basically irrelevant on the board as far as attacking and blocking. So this one's okay. It's middling draft card. I wouldn't love this card, but if I'm light on removal, it's very reasonable. It's just a middling draft card. I'm not super excited about it. It does have 0 power though, which is important again for Coven, which is kind of cool. So be aware of that. You know, earlier I mentioned that with the other 0 power card. So that is real. That is real for Coven. So it's a Coven enabler too, but nothing super, super exciting. Up next is Hedge Witch's Mask. 1 mana for an artifact equipment. Creature gets +1/+1. Can't be blocked by creature's power 4 or greater. Not super exciting. If they flipped this, if it was 2 mana to play and 1 to equip, I'd be a lot more about it. If your deck is slow, you need a mana sink, you know, to push through. This card is okay, but not super exciting. Probably a better sealed card than draft card. Not playable and constructed. You know, just one of those kind of like, I need a way to kind of like augment or break through in some way, but it's clunky. It's not particularly great. Wouldn't wear it. Wouldn't wear it. No fashion here. Homestead Courage. 1 white for a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains vigilance on end of turn. Flashback. Do it again. I actually like this card a lot. I love 1 mana spells. Love them. It's sorcery, which is important. I actually think this card's better for constructive and limited. I know, right? It's that might be a hot take, but I think that the magecraft stuff happening in standard, you know, with Leon and Lightscribe and Clever Lumenmancer, this card seems freaking awesome in a deck like that. Like, awesome. It's 2 spells. It's super cheap. It's sort of like the Lesson Learn one, Guiding Voice, but instead of drawing a crappy lesson, you just draw another copy of it, which is pretty sweet too. So yeah, Clarion Spirit, the Magecraft cards. I like this card a lot. Constructed Monk of the Open Hand. Right. There's a lot of stuff going on here. I built a second spell White Weenie deck for my last 10 new brews, and it was actually quite good. And now it's Stomp gone and Love Struck Beast gone. This could be a real card. This could be a real card for sure. I like it a lot. And then in limited, I can see limited, you know, this card being a way to push through. It also is, like, again, another good Coven enabler. You can book counters where you want to, which is kind of cool. So, solid card. Yeah, I think better for constructive and limited, where the efficiency is really going to matter. But it's a cool card. I like this card a lot. Big fan. Big fan of this card. Big fan. Intrepid Adversary. I almost said advisory. Jeez, look at me. This is white gem. We haven't started yet. 2 mana for a 3/1 lifelink, which is fine. Comes into play, you can multi-kick it, basically. And when you multi-kick it, you give it a Valor counter. And then all creatures you control get +1/+1 for each Valor counter. Sour Trap. I think this card is quite overrated. Because if you look at it, a 3/1 lifelinker for 2 is... It's okay. It's fine. Not good. Now at 4 mana, we have a 4/2 lifelinker that crusades your team. It's okay. It's fine. It's okay. Nothing really super exciting. You know, just fine. You know, at 6 mana, yeah, that's pretty cool. It pumps twice. It's a 5/5/3. But like, at no point in the curve is this card like really, really good. It's very vulnerable. It's fine. I don't think it's bad, but it just doesn't seem that exciting to me at any point in the curve. Not really a big draw. Certainly a role player. It's possibly a playable card in Constructed. But like, I wouldn't spend white 2 for a 4/2 lifelinker that crusaded me. I just wouldn't do it. It's not good enough. So like, we'll see. Yeah, it is better than multi-kicker. Obviously, you can't, you know, you pay it. You don't have to pay it up front. And then Aether Vial, etc., etc. That's cool. But yeah, I think this card's overrated. It's obviously completely busted and limited. Just wait till turn 6, cast it for 6, and just win the game. Sure, but yeah, I think it's overrated and constructed, and then obviously a bomb unlimited, but overrated for sure. Overrated for sure, I think. Moving on to Loyal Griff. 3 mana for a 2/2 flash flying. Comes into play. You may bounce another creature you control its owner's hand. So a lot of stuff going on here. So limited card, obviously, not constructed card. We have a 2/2 flying Windrake with flash for 3, which is already fine. You know, giving it flash is pretty cool. Flash plays well with the werewolves, which is great. So the werewolves, you can play a wolf and flip it to day, and then say go, and then yada yada yada. That's cool. Cool thing here also is how this interacts with our disturb cards, right? So the disturb cards, when you flash back a disturb creature, it comes back transformed, and if it would go to the graveyard, it would get exiled, right? But you can use the Griff to bounce it back to your hand, and no problems there. It'll come back as the front side. You can play it as the front side again, then flash it back again. So a lot of value there too, which is kind of cool. So this is a very, very solid draft card. It's a lot more than the sum of its parts. It does a lot of really cool things. We've got squats challenge point, anything here. And but yeah, I think that this is a really, really solid limited card. Like really, really solid card. It does a lot of things. It does a lot more things than you realize. And it's really, really good. It's really, really good draft card. Moving on to Lunarch Veteran. 1 mana for a Soul Warden for only your creatures. It's important to note, not your opponent's creatures. And it has Disturb as well. So front side, kind of a bad Soul Warden. Back side is Luminous Phantom, which is a 1/1 flyer. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, you gain 1 life. But in the battlefield, if anywhere, you exile it instead. And what's the flashback cost? 2. This feels sort of like a Hunted Witness, kind of card, where it's just like a creature and a creature for pretty cheap. It's okay. You know, there is like a life gain 2-drop in the format right now. Some life gain stuff as well. I don't know. You know, if your deck wants a Soul War, it's okay. The backside is not very exciting. You know, it's a 1/1 flyer. If things die, you can gain some life. It's okay. You know, if you need a Soul Warden, sure. And then in limited, I would say this card's less exciting in limited, where you can't really utilize the life gain synergies. So kind of a not very good limited card, and a very fringe constructed card. Moving on to Morning Patrol. Get it? 3 mana for a 2/3 Vigilance. Has Disturb 4. Backside is Morning Apparition. And it's a 2/1 flying Vigilance. This card's good. Just a solid draft common. You know, a 2/3 for 3 is not great. But if you can trade it with some other 2-drop or 3-drop, and then flash it back for a flyer, and then trade that one too, that's card advantage. So nothing amazing here. Not a card you'll always play. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Fun flavor text, fun name, fun art, etc. Yeah, you know, just... For sure. But yeah, just, you know, you're middling draft common. Might play it, you might not. Odric's Outrider. 4 mana for a 2/4. Whenever it or another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. Solid draft card. Nothing really too exciting here. You know, putting counters is good. This is where, you know, your deck building is going to come in. You know, do you have, like, random tokens laying around? Are you playing the Token Maker? Are you playing cards like the Lunar Veteran, where you have a creature that can die and make a creature? If so, this card's a lot better. If not, the card's not very good. So very much a synergy card for your draft deck, but nothing really amazing anyway. Just like an okay card, just fine. Decent 4-drop. Again, if you need some way to like scale up as the game goes on or build your board. Also important to note, this plays very, very well with these zombie tokens that have decayed. We'll get to those in black. So another possible thing. Again, there's cards that are just good, and there are cards that require other things to be good, and this is one of those cards. So the value of this card will value drastically in your draft deck based on the other cards that you have. Just be aware of that when you're drafting it. Up next is Ritual Guardian. 3 mana for a 3/2 Coven, and the Coven gets lifelink. So this is another solid draft card. You know, the 3 mana 3/2 is pretty standard. You know, lifelinker is great. It's probably going to trade on the first attack, which is not super exciting, but you know, maybe you attack and they block and you get some life. That's pretty cool, but just filler. Another filler common, 3 power. It's okay. Thanks to the bits, Teal. Appreciate it. Thanks to the resubs also. Ritual of Hope. 2 mana for an instant. Creatures you control get +1/+1 on a turn. And then Coven, creatures get +2/+1 to end a turn. That's pretty good. You know, again, these white decks seem very interested in getting Coven. There are a lot of ways to do it at common, which is kind of nice. And then 2 mana for +2/+1 is pretty freaking good. So again, same idea as the last card, as the Outrider. If you're able to go wide, you're able to use a lot of these cards in really good ways. You know, as far as like, you know, go wide, make tokens. This card's good. If you're not doing that, this card's not that good. You know, it's kind of very contextual. Constructed, I can imagine like an outside shot in Constructed. Instead, it's not cumulative. It's just +2/+1. We used to call Coven winning. You have 3 more creatures in play, for sure. But yeah, outside shot in Constructed, like outside shot. But moving on to Search Party Captain, and this one it doesn't win any awards, but the award it wins is, ooh, I like this card. This card's really freaking cool. Search Party Captain, 4 mana for a 2/2. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature you attack with this turn. Comes into play, draws a card. So now again, we're seeing that sort of like that white's finally getting card draw. Awesome. This card's great. I wish it was a 2/3. I wish it was or had first strike. I wish it was a little bit better. But it's close. Constructed, I'm not sure yet. We'll have to see how this plays. You know, if we attack with 2 creatures, this is a cantripping bear, which is great. It's a human. Some relevance there. You know, Constructed, again, I don't think so in Constructed, but it is certainly possible. And then in Limited, phenomenal card. You know, if you attack with 1 creature and play this on turn 3, that's phenomenal. 2/2 draws a card, and it can cost much less than that, which is awesome. So probably up there with the best white commons in the set. Phenomenal card in that respect. And Limited, I mean, in Constructed, we'll see. I hope this card is good in Constructed. I think it's a little bit too small. I think constructed we need it to be like a 3/2 or have first strike or have a 2/3 or something else. Vigilant, something else on top of it, but it's only a common. But I love a direction. I love a direction. Love a direction. White drawing cards makes me happy. Makes me happy. Moving on to Sigarda's Splendor. White 2 for an enchantment. Oh, wait, hold on. I gotta take some notes here. As Sigarda's Splendor enters the battlefield, note your life total. Okay. I'm at 20. Beginning of your upkeep, draw a card if your life total is greater than or equal to the last noted life total. Check my notes. Okay. Then, note your life total again. I love taking notes. This is freaking great. I mean, I just love taking notes. When you cast a white spell, you gain 1 life. Yeah, so kind of a weird card. Basically, if you're at a life total higher than you were last turn, you get to draw a card during your upkeep. It costs 4, and then obviously the problem is if you tap out for this, your opponent then attacks you for a decent amount, then you untap, and you never get back to the life total that actually matters. So I don't think the payoff here is good enough. We see this a lot in Historic with the life gain Angels deck, where if you can just attack them reasonably enough and keep their life total at like, 10 or 15, then they don't really do anything. Their cards never turn on. But those cards are at least like well-costed creatures. This is a 4-mana enchantment. This doesn't do anything when you play it. So yeah, Cosmos Elixir also seems a little better too, and that card sees no play either. So we're not at the point in Magic in 2021 where we can tap 4 mana on our main phase, not affect the board in any way, and then have the card be relevant to our life total and have it actually be good. So probably not going to be good enough in Constructed. It is a cool card. Definitely kind of a fun design. I don't know about taking notes and stuff, but it's cool. It's cool. Limited for sure. If you're playing a defensive deck, this card can be very, very good. But yeah, kind of a weird card, honestly. Kind of a weird card. Don't think it's good enough, though. Don't think it's good enough. Up next is Saguardian Savior, which is a 5-mana 3/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, return up to 2 target creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, a little bit Revelarkian. And unfortunately, mana value 2 is different than power 2, because mana value 2 is tough. What deck is going to be playing a bunch of 2-drops and 1-drops that also wants a 3/3 flyer for 5, So this one feels like, if you're playing an aggro deck against the Wrath of God deck, and they wrath you, and you're just like, bam, play this, bring back my entire board, say go. That's a cool element for it. So possible sideboard card for like white weenie decks, things like that. Maybe a sacrificey deck if you're going to be able to, keep playing 2-drops, second thing for value, stuff like that. Could be kind of cool. It does say whenever you cast it, so you can't, recurring nightmare, whatever type effects on this. But it's a cool card. It's a kind of card that's like probably a niche player. With these clauses on it, you probably can't combo with it in any way. So mostly like a sideboard niche player or like top end for a sacrifice deck or something like that. It's cool. Nothing super exciting. Obviously a total bomb and limited. If you just freaking cast this card, you get back a bear, you're already way ahead. So very, very good limited card. As long as you're playing a lot of 2-drops. But yeah, Constructed, I think it's like probably a little bit below the bar. Up next, we have Soul Guide Griff. 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer. Comes into play, exile a card from the graveyard. Just your solid 5 mana flyer in limited. Solid card. Won't always make the deck, but you're never unhappy if it does. It's got a good body. It blocks pretty well. Obviously, exiling cards will be very important out of graveyards. So, yeah, just a very, very solid limited common. Again, not a card you always want. We see this 3/4 flyer in almost every set. Nothing too different from that. Up next is Sun Gold Barrage. 3 mana for an instant. Destroy a creature, toughness 4 or greater. This one's going to be important, I think, because a lot of the werewolves do flip over to pretty big creatures, so that's kind of cool. It's cheaper than usual. Usually this card costs 3 and not 4, so that's relevant, but still probably more of a sideboard card. In limited, you can't really afford to like just have this card stranded in your opening hand, unless you're light on removal. So again, this we've seen this card before too. There's nothing really new here. It's just the usual kill big creature card. Up next is Sun Gold Sentinel. That's right, folks. Sun Gold Sentinel is not the most flashy card in the set, but this is a real workhorse kind of card. Our best in show here. We have a 2 mana 3/2 human soldier. Whenever it comes into play or attacks, exile a card from the graveyard. Then it has Coven. Choose a color, and you get hexproof from the color, or can't be blocked by the color. All right, so I know it's not that flashy. It's not that exciting. It's not that crazy. What's up, Alias? Big raid. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Set review. You two did a great time. We're just in white. We just started. And it's just a very, very solid card. The kind of card that will just see a lot of play based on being a very, very reasonable card. And it's just solid. It's really all it is. A 3-2 for 2 is fine. Exiling cards from graveyards is good. They made a lot of graveyard stuff both now and then once the next set comes out also. And then, again, the kind of card that's like a reasonable aggro card. It has extra value as far as like slowing your opponent down. And then the board gums up. It can get through unblockable. It can protect itself. Not an amazing card here. The options here weren't super great for white. You know, there's a lot of like okay cards. Nothing really jumps off the page at you. So it's not like this card's insane. It's more of like this is the best white card in the set, I think, for constructed play as far as like going to see the most amount of play. So card's super solid. I like it. And I think it's going to see a lot more play than you think it will. It's a human draft, but obviously a great draft card. Just super, super good draft card. 3-2, solid. Coven's good. There's a lot of stuff for 2 mana. A lot of stuff. Like it a lot. And that is our best in show for white. Moving on. Oh, look at that.
It's a trap.
It's our trap card. You've activated my trap card. Sunset Revelry. 2 mana for a sorcery. If your opponent controls more life than you. If your opponent has more life than you, you gain 4 life. Opponent controls more creatures than you. Make 2/1/1s. Your opponent has more cards in hand than you. Draw a card. When this card was spoiled, people were going nuts on Twitter. Sheen Serrani was like, "Oh my god!" and everyone was just going crazy. This card is like isn't that good. You know, this is 2/3 of timely reinforcements. All right, timely is a great card for sure. Timely is a great sideboard card in modern against specifically burn decks for the most part. You know, playable in standard. It was playable in standard for sure, but the reality is that most aggressive decks these days aren't really burn decks. You know, it's not about like, I'm going to play a Jackal Pup and then nickel and dime you with some lava spikes and try and kill you. Oh god, you gain 4 life. What am I ever going to do? Cards are a lot more powerful these days. You know, it's Embercleave and Annex and whatever, Goldspan Dragon, blah, blah, blah. Here's a 4/4, you're dead, you know. So the reality is here, this is going to be, you know, at best out of the sideboard, a Raise the Alarm that gains 4 life, which is certainly playable. That's reasonable. But this card's like never gonna give you what you want. If you're playing against an aggro deck, you're gonna get this mini timely reinforcement, which is fine. You're never drawing a card. If you're playing against a control deck, you may draw a card, but you're rarely gonna get anything else off of it. You know, so like, and say if you get 2/1/1s and draw a card, that is very good. Yes, that is a very, very solid card. That's Elvish Visionary +1 token, right? That's not awesome. That's just fine. You know, if that's your ceiling, like what's the ceiling on this card? The ceiling on this card is basically that. It's Elvish Visionary +1 more token. And the floor is literally nothing. It's down here. The floor is down here. And that's where this card will be if it doesn't work out for you. Because it won't freaking do anything. It will do actually nothing. So, it's dirty down there. And so like, it's just not a good card. It's a fine sideboard card. It is okay. Is it possible to get all 3? Not really, because if you're behind on life and behind on board, they've probably played more cards than you. If you're getting all 3, you're probably so far behind that this card's not going to save you anyway. You know, so again, I think this card is most likely, you know, a sideboard timely reinforcements that will be occasionally played and okay, but 4 life and 2/1/1s just doesn't go as far as it used to. You know, timely used to be like a real good card. It is what it is. You know, it is what it is, which is fine. It's fine. This card's not bad. This card will see play. The point of It's a Trap is to slow people's roll a little bit. This card is not insane. It's not a main deck card. It's not a control staple. It's not going to revive control. But yeah, so it's a middling sideboard card at best. In limited, sure, I could see this in limited as a reasonable card, but constructed, not super exciting. This card's not a main deck card. Unless it ends up being very good in a certain metagame, this is not a main deck card at all. Super overrated. It's a trap. Moving on. Next card is throbbing extraism. 2 mana for instant. Exile creature. Spirit. A disturbed creature or enchantment. Just a sideboard limited card. Sideboard limited card for the most part. Thought it was a cantrip, folks. All right, just trust me. So, just sideboard limited card. Nothing crazy. Unruly Mob reprint. It's pretty cool. Whatever creature you control dies, put a counter on it. Again, the card plays really well with the zombie decay tokens, which is kind of cool. We'll get to those in black, of course. And if you play a lot of 1/1s and tokens, this card's fine. If not, not great. It's kind of card that looks like it could be really, really good, but it's kind of like inefficient. It's 1/1 for 2, which is kind of like, it's all right. It's all right. So not an amazing card. An okay draft card for sure. Flavor text. We survived the travails, killer angels, horrors from beyond the moon. Now, some big werewolves think they can scare us. Let them try. It's good. It's good. Vanquish the Hordes, our last card. Commander players, rejoice.
Bingo!
Commander players, rejoice. I played my first game of Commander last on Monday, actually, on Monday. And Blasphemous Act was cast. It was very, very good. I'm sure this is going to be an absolute Commander staple for sure. So all you Commander players, have a great time. It was my first game online. Whatever. It was one of my first Commander games ever, right? Leave me alone. Constructed, it's all right. I mean, say there are 3 creatures on the battlefield. This will cost 5. It's the kind of card where, like, if your opponent's really, really going nuts, it'll be good. But it's also very easy to play around. I think this is a real fringe player constructed. Not very exciting. In limited, yeah, it's a Wrath. Very, very playable for sure. But yeah, more of a Commander card than anything else. The kind of card that probably should have been printed like 10 years ago. But it's good against Asika's Chariot. Well, they keep the chariots. That's like not that good, right? So yeah, there's your Commander card, and that's white, folks. That's white. That's the whole color. YouTube folks, I love you. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what your best in show is. Let me know what your trap card is, right? YouTube, appreciate it. Blue's coming up. Thanks so much.